I love music. It's one of my favorite hobbies and honestly just one of my favorite ways to spend my pastime, whether it's making it or listening to it. And I've been wanting to have like a separate device separated from my computers, from my phone, from everything else that could do it all. I looked out far and wide and found a little known device that came out in 2019 that actually still stands the test of time and I think was way ahead of their time. This is the Akai Force. Now this thing promises to be an all-in-one production studio. Your DAW, your audio interface, your performance device. It's supposed to be everything. The Force is built like a tank, and I don't mean that lightly. It's a full metal body, real weight to it, with rubber feet on the bottom so it can grip to your desk like glue. The sides have functional cooling because it's pretty much a computer, and you want it to be able to cool down. Front and center, you have the 7-inch multi-touch display, which is really high quality. The colors really pop. It's honestly really nice to use. It's where you're going to see all your timelines, your arrangement view, all the different settings on the device. It pretty much functions like a mini tablet that controls the rest of your device, while there's also some tactile alternatives if you really hate using the touchscreen and just want to use it as a display. But one thing is this thing attracts fingerprints like crazy, so I'd keep a cloth around just to wipe it off unless you want it to smear even worse than your smartphone. On the front, you have the Force branding with the SD card slot for expandable storage. It also allows you to be able to import stuff and export stuff to you and from your computer, which is really nice for someone like me who maybe wants to use the device to make music and then maybe mix and master on my computer in Ableton Live. There's also some options if you want to just download samples or plugins and bring them to the device that way. It's really simple and easy to use. There's also the headphone jack, which is insanely loud. I really never turn it more than a quarter, maybe a third of the way. And it's already blasting my eardrums, so I really don't need more volume than that. But it has really, really clean gain. On the back, you really have everything that makes this device fully standalone and really stand out compared to other controllers and other standalone devices. It's the inputs and outputs. It has two combination XLR 1/4-inch inputs, which allow you to plug into microphones and instruments, which is super convenient. Both of those microphone inputs actually have phantom power options, which is really nice if you have a condenser microphone like myself. I can just plug this directly into the Force, don't need a separate interface or anything, and that's been incredibly convenient, as I need an interface to plug it into my computer. So you actually can need to buy less equipment with the Force than you do with using just your computer. There's MIDI in and out, which is really convenient if you have various different MIDI devices or you want to actually use the Force as a MIDI. There's USB ports to be able to plug in to an interface or again plug into MIDIs. There's also Ableton Link, which allows you to plug in the Force into your computer and use it like a controller for your DAW or anything like that, which is super, super cool. There's also a bay at the bottom for installing your own SSD for expandable storage, which is super, super nice if that's what you need. Now, Akai, they know their pads, and the Akai Force does not disappoint. This 64 pad array has really nice touch to it. They are all velocity sensitive pads, really soft and consistent. They don't really wobble at all either. Really nice to use overall. So the whole workflow is built around buttons, encoders, and the touchscreen. All the essential transport controls are right at the top. They all feel great. The buttons, really nice and clicky. The workflow does take a little while to get used to because everything is built around buttons and button combinations, and the touchscreen, can be a little overwhelming to many at first. There are tons of tutorials online, on YouTube especially, that are really clear, really straight to the point. I actually had a lot of fun just trying to figure out the device on my own. If your brain works great for that, you can really just have fun figuring stuff out. often by accident, but there are tutorials out there if you need. Now you might have been staring at them already, but the device has 8 Q-Link knobs right at the top of the pads. These 8 Q-Link knobs are one of the Force's biggest strengths. Under each knob is its own separate parameter. You can actually configure them through the knobs button to work however you want. I actually often use them as the audio volume for each of the different channels. However, you can use them to impact different plugins. You can actually customize the knob to work under any different plugin menu that you're in. Essentially, the parameters can be whatever you want. They function for anything. It's honestly really awesome to see that. The customizability of this device is amazing. Yeah, I just wish there were more tracks, man. Why are there only 8? I know we're limited, but it'd be nice to have more tracks, man. There's a crossfader at the top right, which is mainly useful for DJing, but can also be used for just any live sets or production, live performance overall. It's removable, it's customizable, it's got really light action. Honestly, it's a little too light. I wish there was a little more resistance to it. But, you know, small losses for what overall is a really big win of the device. With minor gripes with the build, hardware overall is phenomenal. There's minor gripes I have. The power button doesn't really have much of a click to it. It's a little finicky to feel like, oh, is it on? Is it off? Like, it doesn't have that satisfying, like, that like tells you it's on or off. The power cable is really flimsy. I've almost had to replace it a couple times because, you know, it gets a little wobbly. Thank God for electrical tape, but still, they should have a better power cord for a device this expensive. At retail, it was around like $1,600-1,700, so I got it for $600. I'm not complaining. The Force isn't like a traditional DAW. It's like Ableton in hardware form. I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, why not just get the push then? If you want to get the push, man. I don't care. I prefer this device because it is fully standalone. It has that large display that I find really helpful. It's finicky with integrating with Ableton. I've found there's plenty of tutorials out there. I've found the most useful integration is with mixing and mastering. So I actually just export all of the files from the Force to an Ableton project to be able to mix and master, but be able to fully make my music on the Force. That's the workflow I find useful. There's plenty of other things that might work better for you. If you really want just Ableton itself in a device, just get the push. I personally like the Akai workflow a little bit better than the push workflow. My buddy has a Move, which is the smaller version of the push, which is really fun, but very limited. And also, I just don't like the lack of a display to see fully what I'm doing, and not having that full customizability kind of sucks. But that's just me. There's various different modes. There's the matrix mode, which is the clip launcher mode. This is what you'll typically see in an Ableton project when you open it up. This is where your project is split into columns, which is your tracks. That's your drums, your bass, your guitar, your vocals, your synths, etc. There's the rows, which are your scenes or song selections. You can launch each of these on the right with the launch buttons. These essentially allow you to go to different parts of the song. For example, you could have your hook, your hook or intro. You could have your verse and chorus in different areas so that you could actually live perform it as well, which is really nice if you're just gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna launch my intro and launch the verse and launch the chorus or launch the drop or whatever you're producing, right? It's a really nice way to just clue different scenes. You can trigger one clip at a time or fire entire scenes at a time. So if you're trying to, again, mix and match different clips, you can. And then if you want to have those preset scenes that you developed already, you can click those separately. I think, again, this device was definitely developed for live performance or live music making. And for me, that's a workflow that benefits me better. If you are someone who wants to sit back, relax, design separate sounds, like fully build out an entire project at a desk, I'd maybe refrain from this device and go more with like Ableton Live or FL Studio or another DAW. That might work better for you. There's the notes mode, which is where the Force becomes an instrument. This is where you have any of your plugins, instruments, drum kits, whatever you're using. This is the 64 pad setup that you signed up for when you bought this device. This is your instrument. This is where you play your notes, your chords, your progressions, whatever you program your device to do. There's actually a lot of different things you can do to customize this notes menu. You can lock it to a specific scale. You can lock it to a different key. You can select different chord types. You can pick different progressions. You can arrange stuff based on different genres or different sounds that you're going for. There's a lot of customizability here. Now, the step sequencer, for anyone who's familiar with producing, is exactly what you'd expect. It works great. You get a visual 16-step layout, multiple lanes, and detailed pad level editing. Really, really convenient to use. You can sequence different melodies, harmonies, and full drum racks. I mainly use it for my drums as I like developing my melodies on my own, but there are options to do all of that. Something I really love is that you're not just limited to that 4x4 grid at the bottom. You can actually expand it to that 64 grid with those drum pads, which is really, really nice. You can actually customize the different corners. So I often will use that 4x4 pad for my main drums, select one of the drums, hit the note button, and then actually change the tune of whatever drum pad I'm playing. Little conveniences like that really help the workflow, and you can customize that with every different pad. Now, getting to the sound design and the deep editing tools in the Akai Force, you have things like the hype plugin, a lot of these built-in synths that you can use that are standard with the Force. It comes with a lot of these sounds already pre-built into it. They're not perfect. I still would purchase separate plugins personally for any professional stuff, but for just messing around or coming up with ideas, I think they're perfect. You really don't need anything else. And that's something that this device really does work well as, is a idea machine that you can later translate to larger projects down the line. Now, there is a minor limitation, which is that you can only load 4 plugins per track. If you're someone who likes to add on like 20 plugins, like John Summit, if you ever seen his video on how to produce, he has like 20 plugins per track. So if you're someone who likes to stack up plugin on plugin on plugin, just know that you are limited to 4 plugins per track, and can only view one at a time, which can be limiting to some people. And for some people who produce more in-depth or complicated electronic music, this might not be the device for you. Now, on the main menu, you have various different power tools. There's the sampler with an auto sampler. This can turn any external synth into a fully mapped instrument automatically. It's pretty amazing. I also like bringing in audio clips, sampling them, chopping them up, and then being able to put them onto pads to be able to use them live in a song as sound bites. There's the looper, which is great for guitarists, vocalists, or live layering. There's the XY pad, which gives you multi-touch effects in real time, filters, delays, modulation. It's perfect for transitions or live sets overall. There's also the arpeggiator, and this thing is ridiculously deep. It has everything you could possibly need. There's classic arpeggiators, there's chord-based ones, there's rhythmic patterns, there's genre templates, there's note repeat. I've cycled through them. I have a lot of fun with that arpeggiator all the time. I really just think it's a fun thing to use. You can use it with any device or notes or anything. So finally, who is the Force for? Force gets rid of everything that breaks your creative flow, all the distractions, no tabs, no email, no tracking CPU spikes, none of that. You're just making music. And you know what? Sometimes that's really all we need. The standalone nature is a pro and a con depending on who you are. But for a lot of people, it replaces thousands of dollars of gear for other musicians. Like, you could just have an all-in-one box instead of having, you'll see a lot of musicians have this giant set of 20 million different pieces of equipment, and it looks cool, but it's expensive. And for your average at-home musician, maybe this is all you need. Right now, these are online, used for about $600. and I think it's a great use of $600. I know that Akai has released their MPC Live 3, which has been really hitting the market strong. It's a portable device, battery powered, doesn't need to be plugged in, but I think it's still limited, and it costs about 3 times what the Force costs for what I think is actually a better piece of hardware. So who should buy a device like this? I think singer-songwriters who want just a simple, distraction-free setup, any producers who maybe just love the Ableton Live workflow but want more of a hands-on device, anyone who's a live performer, I think this is a really great device to have for live performance. The one thing I'd flag is that it is only 2 gigabytes of RAM, and so if you overload it with too much, it might not handle well. I know this device has been known to crash with large-scale live setups in the past, so I will flag that. Guitarists or vocalists who want just direct-in recording and maybe a device to kind of mess around and make their music with without needing an interface and 20 million other things. Anyone who's building just a full standalone portable rig, whether it's for live performance or going on trips, I've had a pretty easy time. I'd get maybe a case for it, but I've had an easy time transporting the Force, plugging it into a portable battery, even bringing it camping, and then bringing like just a keyboard, portable keyboard to plug it into, and just jam. It's a lot of fun. So who should skip it and maybe go for some other device that might fit their needs better? I think anyone who's married to the traditional DAW experience would probably find this particular device kind of infuriating, as it has a completely different workflow and doesn't necessarily integrate super well with a ton of DAWs, unless, again, you're just exporting the files. Producers who heavily rely on third-party plugins will also not benefit from this device, as this is a device that, again, is not compatible with third-party VSTs or plugins or anything like that. It can only work with things that are compatible with the Force or MPC3 software. Specifically, I would look into those specific plugins that do work. Again, I haven't had a huge problem with it, as I'm able to export my files to a DAW and then mix and master in that DAW where I have all of my external plugins. For me, the Akai Force feels refreshing. It reminds me a lot of the fun of making music, and maybe it's just the high of having a new device to play with that I haven't experienced before. But I don't see myself putting this thing down for a good while. I am having a lot of fun with it. I've loved getting back into the passion of making music, especially in my downtime, and kind of disconnecting a bit and just having a creative endeavor. I think it's something everyone could benefit from. Anyways, thank you all for watching. Let me know if you are interested in the Akai Force. If you want me to do any other videos around music production, make sure to like, subscribe. See you guys in the next one. Peace.